Hello there, music lovers. Welcome back to the Woodshed. This week's Woodshed has an interesting topic. One of my patrons sent me a question, and I figured it best to kind of answer it here publicly for you guys. He says, Andy, I have about 5 pedals now from 0 a couple of years ago. He says, what is the best way to buy a board for them? Do I go to the local guitar center with all of the pedals and see what the best board is? I've never done this before. What do I need to avoid? This is probably an unusual question, but I appreciate your help. Thanks. So sit back, relax, and I'll give my thoughts on that. Roll it. Many of you guys probably already have your pedal boards and you're super happy with your setups, and that's great. For me, pedal boards are kind of always evolving, and depending on the needs of the gig, the things that I'm doing, pedal boards can vary in size and what's on them, etc. So for me, the most important thing is, what's the gig? What am I doing? That will let me know how many effects I need, which will essentially help me frame my blueprint in my mind for my pedal board. So I do things ranging from clinics and one-off gigs, maybe even an occasional sitting in with my buddies at a club somewhere, all the way up to things like Grand Ole Opry, mega arenas with hired artists, and then of course my solo stuff, which kind of sits ever so lovingly at the small theater kind of level. I'm going to show you 3 different boards that I like to use, and hopefully this can help you make your decision. Now, the number one thing that I like to do before I buy a board or look at dimensions of a board is just take the pedals that I want to have on the board and lay them out, maybe in an order similar to what's going to be on the board. From there, you'll need to take an inventory if you want to have any expression pedals on the board, wah pedals, maybe something like an RJM or a gig rig to control the pedals. From there, you've got to take into consideration of the power supply. How are you going to power the pedal board? You don't want to have wires coming across the top and being all messy and things that can come unplugged. And then lastly, are you going to save any room for any future purchases? Are you going to have a tuner on the board itself, or is it going to be courtesy of a gig rig, or is it going to be a snark on the end of the headstock or something like that? It's just really laying out the battle plan and seeing what's going to work for you. And also of note, it's worth mentioning that you can completely avoid all of this and send all of your pedals to someone who builds rigs. Someone like Dave Friedman, O'Million down at Guitar Sanctuary. There's guys all over the country that do great work. They can essentially take the headache out of the equation for you. Now with that, you're going to be spending some dough in shipping the gear, talking to the person that's building the board, and laying out your battle plan. But if you don't want to mess with any of it, maybe that's the route you want to take. You don't even have to worry about what kind of board they use. They'll do it all for you. For me personally, I've got a couple of pedal trains that I use a lot, and then I use a Gator board that I use for high gain amps. Let's take a look at those 3 boards and kind of see where we end up. All right, now starting off with the main board. This is the biggest of the fleet, the flagship. And it is a pedal train board. I'm going to swing around here to the side, show you some features on it. One of the things that we've got, various inputs that can fit underneath. Now I'm going to flip this up so you can see the bottom of it. Need to clean up this cabling a little bit. We're still just moving things around and getting things the way I like them and testing them. But room for 2 power supplies. And if you can see the brackets right there, seeing those brackets, a lot of companies pre-make power supplies that'll fit in there. There's an opening across the front. This is definitely like a higher grade board. This is the Pedal Train Pro. Let's zoom back out here. So you can tell by my hand size, volume pedal, it's kind of like how big, these are standard size, how big everything is. It's a big board, and mainly it's to do with the size of the Mastermind. And that's just a looping system that allows me to control everything on the board. Okay, so now let's jump over to board number 2, which is the board I just used when we played the Grand Ole Opry last week, which is the complete opposite. This is the Pedal Train Nano. And for me, I can have, you know, some good size pedals. These UA are good size. Gearbox is obviously horizontal. And Woodshed comp down here. Don't pay any attention to the settings. I just pull it out of the case. So the settings aren't factual in any way. This is a really powerful board. It allows me to do clinics and fly dates and, you know, things like that very easily. I used this board at the John Petrucci camp out in Anaheim. And I just plugged straight into a Bella with a Mesa Boogie 212. And when I use this board, I usually have a tuner on the headstock. You know, it's about being convenient. You can see in a comparison right here, just kind of, let's even just do this right here. This whole board can sit right there. So you can tell that, like, you know, if size is an issue, I'm gonna flip it over, let you see. This is a little bit neater of a cabling scenario because I'm kind of married to this. The cool thing about Zuma is it fits underneath. So yeah, this is a very powerful small board. Again, with putting things out front. And that's what this board's kind of all about too, is getting your overdrive from pedals. All right, lastly, we've got this board. This board is made by Gator, and I like it because it's crazy neon green. A lot of room there for power supplies and whatnots. Always love the openings on the front. You know, there's the Gator logo. Thanks to the folks at Gator for supplying this. Now, I use this board when I'm going into like a high gain kind of amp, like the Rhodes or maybe the Diesel. You know, it's like that's the kind of thing that I use this board for. And the size is really great for another size comparison. Here's the small board against it. I'll get you a better shot here. There's just a size comparison, kind of on how that looks. And you're probably wondering why I have an Axe 8 on here, and I'm saying it's my high gain board. Well, that's because the Axe 8 can do two things. One, it can act as all of my time-based effects, delays, reverbs, things like that. Noise gate for using these big high gain monsters. The second thing, and most important, is it can be a backup amplifier. So when I'm using high gain heads, you know, it's usually more in a metal rock kind of environment. And I love the fact that I can have a backup in case something dies on a club gig or anything like that. I just run straight in here. Another thing is I like to have a tuner that I can get in and get out of a lot of times versus things like the RJM's got a tuner built into it, but you have to hold a button and switch through. Same with this. I don't want to have to hold buttons and switch through. I just want to hit my tuner and be in tune. A little mini wah. Really cool that the folks at Dunlop kind of custom made this. It's got a voicing that they don't really offer. It's just a certain sweep on the cue that I like. My favorite wah is the Jerry Cantrell, and I set that to where it sounds real good, real sweet and vocal on the on that knob right there. And you know, I go in here, and then the entire Axe 8 is in the effects loop. I don't use a 4-cable method with ins and outs and all that stuff. I just go from the loop into the input, from the output into the return on the amp. Nice and clean, nice and simple. These items right here stay in the front of the amp. So let's scope out and just take a look here. Let's scope out and take a look at the size options. So you can tell kind of what we're looking at with the big board, the smallest board, and then the gator board, which is a nice in-between. So when you're looking for a board size, again, the most important thing is what are you going to put on it? What gig are you doing? What are you going to need to do? But for me, these three boards cover everything. This right here covers my loop-based things with high gain amps. Clinic board, fly board, Grand Ole Opry, Jimmy Kimmel, whatever, small things. And then this is the mega rig for when I want to do, you know, loop-based switching, have my fancy pants delays. This controls the wet dry. I'll link up in the description the video breakdown of this board and what all it does. It's really killer. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. Cheers, guys. All right, thanks for hanging out this week in the Woodshed. Thanks to my patrons. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to keep this stuff going. And if you're interested in my Patreon, becoming a member over there, we have all kinds of different levels. The basic level gets you access to hundreds of lesson videos. The next level up gets you access to our private Discord server, which is a nice chat area for all of our Woodshed members to exchange ideas and tones and mixes and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, and if you want to keep on edging it up in the membership, that's going to gain you some cool access to weekly live masterclasses. Those are in a group format. They're video, they're live every week, and we do everything from listening to new music. I'll do playthroughs, talking about what's current in the music industry, and then just talking about guitar stuff. It kind of ranges all over the board, so check it out. If you're interested in booking me or seeing where I'm playing, seeing where I'm going to be on tour, maybe you're interested in TrueFire courses and jam play courses or bundles with my Axe Effects patches, backing tracks, transcriptions, all of that kind of good stuff is at andywoodmusic.com. Thank you guys for the support and the love, and we'll see you next time.